whispered her voice, breaking as tears rolled down her face. She had always imagined this night. Her first time with Jack, but never expected this. She had judged his size with her eyes and convinced herself she could handle it, but now seeing him in front of her, it felt impossible. Jack, sensing her fear, quickly stood up, his heart aching at the sight of her tears. He knelt beside her, his voice gentle, yet pleading, "Natasha, please don't do this. You know I love you. I've waited for this moment with you for so long." His eyes glistened with passion and desperation. "I promise I will be gentle. I want you so much, but I will take it slow." Natasha's breath was shaky as she replied, "But I'm scared, Jack. I've never done this before. I don't know if I can." Jack leaned closer softly, his hands moving slightly at the back of her ear, trying to calm her trembling. The bedroom was thick with tension, their desire battling against fear. Both of them wanted it. Their hearts prayed silently to the gods for guidance, for a miracle to make this moment right. After what felt like an eternity of tender touches and whispered words, Jack made another attempt, slowly guiding her through the moment. But then in an instant, Natasha let out a scream so loud it shattered the silence of the night. Her cry pierced the stillness of the neighborhood, waking those who had been fast asleep. People rushed out of their house, eyes wide with fear and confusion. They gathered outside Jack's home, drawn to the sound of the scream. Among them was Natasha's father, Mayo Koro, his face tight with worry and anger. "What's going on in their bedroom?" shouted, pounding on Jack's door with force. "Open this door," we heard a woman scream. "What have you done to her?" Inside the room, Jack froze, his heart raced as the reality of the situation sank in. "That's your father," he whispered, his voice filled with dread. Natasha lay on the bed, her body shaking, pain radiating through her. She was bleeding. "I'm so sorry, Natasha," Jack begged, his voice cracking with guilt. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Natasha could barely move, her body weak, her mind clouded with fear. "What are we going to do? My father is going to kill us. If he gets in here." The banging on the door grew louder, more furious. "Jack, open this door right now, before I break it down," Mayo Koro roared without hesitation. Mayo Koro kicked the door, sending it crashing to the ground. The night had taken a terrifying turn, and Jack and Natasha were left standing in the middle of it, their hearts heavy with regret and fear as they faced the wrath of a father and the judgment of the peoples. If you are just viewing this channel, don't forget to hit the subscription button, and to our returning viewers, thanks for your support. You can also do well to comment where you are viewing from in the comment section below. Now let's begin how it all started. Once in a community nestled between golden beaches and tall, swaying coconut trees lived a man named Jack. Jack was no ordinary man. He was tall, dark, and strikingly handsome. His body was built like the ancient warriors of old, broad shoulders and chiseled muscles, with his upper body covered in intricate tattoos. His skin gleamed like polished ebony, and his perfect white teeth flashed whenever he offered his gentle smile. He was the dream of every young woman, both whites and blacks in the community. Jack's skill as a blacksmith was unmatched. He crafted beautiful cookware and farming tools for the entire community. His success set him apart from other men, and his presence made them envious. Every time Jack passed by, women would whisper among themselves, their eyes lingering on him. "Jack is so handsome and successful," they would say by the beach, their voices filled with longing. "I wish he were mine. Imagine the beautiful children we'd have together." "But have you noticed," one of the women, Brenda, asked, "he doesn't seem to have any woman in his life. He's more single than even the least attractive man in the village." "Why do you think that is?" Ife replied, sipping from a freshly cracked coconut. "He's always working. Maybe he's just too busy with the way he's going. He'll probably earn a title soon." One morning, while Jack was shaping a beautiful iron pot outside his workshop, a young woman approached. She had smooth, fair skin and a head full of thick afro hair. "Good day, sir. My name is Natasha," she said softly. "My father, Matsi Oro, sent me to collect the pot you've made." Jack looked up and smiled. "I didn't know Matsi Oro had such a beautiful daughter. How come I've never seen you around?" Blushing, Natasha replied, "I grew up with my mother in the neighboring state. I just returned yesterday." "Well, I hope to see you around more often," Jack said warmly as he handed her the pot. "Send my regards to your father." As Natasha walked back home, her heart raced. She had never seen a man so handsome, so gentle. She couldn't stop smiling, her thoughts swirling with the memory of Jack's smile. Back at home, Mayokoro sat in front of their sitting room. "Is that my pot?" he asked with excitement. "It's beautiful. I can't wait for you to cook me a delicious pot of goat meat pepper soup, just like your mother's." "Yes, Papa," Natasha replied, her mind still on Jack. She hesitated before asking, "Father, what do you know about the blacksmith?" "Jack, I mean," Mayo Koro's face grew serious. "Jack, is a strong man. My daughter, rumor has it that he's either impotent or simply too arrogant to approach any woman. Many people say he refuses to marry because he thinks he's better than the rest. But why are you asking about him, Natasha? No reason, father. I was just curious, Natasha said quickly. I've heard he's handsome, but I'll be careful. Good, Mayo, Cora warned. There's something off about him. Every sixth market day, the youth of the community would gather at the beach, where the cool evening breeze carried the scent of roasted bushmeat and corn. They would light campfires, dance, eat, and drink, hoping to find love. But Shanita never attended these gatherings, no matter how many admirers begged him to come, until tonight. Tonight was different. Jack decided to go, drawn by the hope of seeing Natasha again. As soon as Jack stepped onto the beach, all heads turned to laughter, and music quieted, and all eyes locked onto him. The women whispered, excitedly thrilled by his presence, while the men grew silent, their faces tinged with jealousy. All except Muna, the community magician, a young man known for his flamboyant personality and playful spirit. Unlike the other men, Muna wasn't threatened by Jack. In fact, he was intrigued. Muna made his way over to Jack, who was scanning the crowd, searching for someone. You're Jack, the blacksmith, Muna said, sitting beside him. Yes, Jack replied. And you are Minachi, but everyone calls me Muna, he said with a grin. Are you looking for someone? Jack hesitated before asking, do you know a girl named Natasha, Mayo, Kora's daughter? I was hoping to see her here tonight. Muna smiled and pointed toward the shore where Natasha sat alone, throwing stones into the water. Thanks, Jack said as he stood up and made his way toward her. When Jack reached Natasha, she looked up surprised but pleased. I didn't expect to see you here, Chinidu said, his voice soft. I'm glad I came, Natasha replied, smiling shyly. I was hoping to see you too. They spent the evening together, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. As the fire crackled in the background, they danced and drank fresh palm wine. Lost in each other's company for the first time, Jack felt something new stirring within him, a desire to share more than just his work, a longing to connect with someone. And as the night wore on, it became clear to everyone that something special was blossoming between the blacksmith and the girl from the other state. As the weeks passed, Jack and Natasha grew closer. They would meet by the beach at dusk, sharing quiet moments by the water. Natasha admired Jack's strength, his quiet wisdom, and the way he dedicated himself to his craft. Meanwhile, Jack found in Natasha a gentleness and warmth that he had never experienced before. She wasn't like the other women who gossiped about him or eyed him from afar. Natasha saw him for who he truly was, beyond his handsome face and reputation. Their connection didn't go unnoticed. The women in the community who had long been mesmerized by Jack were now whispering behind Natasha's back every time they saw Jack and Natasha walking together. Jealousy burned in their eyes. Can you believe it? One woman hissed, her voice filled with bitterness. Jack, the most handsome man in the community, and he chooses her, a girl who just arrived from another state. She must have bewitched him. Another woman chimed in. How else could someone like her win his heart? The envy grew, but Natasha remained blissfully unaware. She was too focused on her growing relationship with Jack. The way he looked at her, the way he smiled, it made her feel like the only woman in the world. And for Chinita, being with Natasha brought a calmness, a peace he hadn't realized he needed. But amidst all this, there was Muna, the village magician, who had taken a curious interest in Jack. Unlike the others, Muna wasn't envious of Jack, was rather intrigued. Muna, known for his playful and sometimes eccentric nature, decided he wanted to be closer to Jack. One evening, after watching Jack and Natasha share a quiet moment near the blacksmith's workshop, Muna approached Jack as he packed up his tools. Good evening, Jack, Muna greeted with a wide smile, his voice light and playful. I see you've been spending a lot of time with Natasha lately. Jack looked up surprised to see Muna. Yes, I have, he replied, his voice guarded, but not unfriendly. She's a good person. Muna grinned and sat down on a nearby bench, crossing his legs casually. You know, I've always admired your work. You have a talent unlike anyone else in this community. But there's more to you than just a blacksmith, isn't there? Jack raised an eyebrow, unsure of where Muna was heading with this conversation. What do you mean? Muna said, leaning forward conspiratorially. You're a man of strength, and mystery. You don't just make tools and pots, you create things with soul. I'd like to get to know you better. Perhaps we can work together. You know, I could teach you a thing or two about magic, and you could teach me your craft. Jack chuckled, shaking his head. Magic, you say? I'm not sure how much use I'd have for it in my work. Oh, you'd be surprised, Muna said with a wink. Magic isn't just about tricks or illusions. It's about understanding the world in a different way. And I think someone like you with your strength and discipline could unlock some truly powerful things. Jack wasn't convinced, but there was something about Muna's enthusiasm that intrigued him. Besides, Muna wasn't like the other men in the community who looked at him with either jealousy, or resentment. Muna seemed genuinely interested in him as a person. All right, Muna, Jack said, standing up and wiping his hands on a cloth. I don't know about magic, but I wouldn't mind getting to know you better. Muna's face lit up. Wonderful, we'll make a great team, Jack. Trust me, this community won't know what hit them. As Muna worked to get closer to Jack, Natasha and Jack's relationship continued to flourish. They spent their evenings together talking about their dreams and hopes for the future. Natasha's father, Mauro, had started to soften Jack as well, though he still held on to some reservations. One day, as Natasha walked through the community to meet Jack, a group of women stood by the market, their voices dripping with envy. She thinks she's better than us just because she's with Jack. Now one of them spat. She must have done something to him. Maybe her mother taught her some kind of charm. Another added her tone bitter. But Natasha paid no attention to their words. She had learned to ignore the jealous whispers. Her bond with Jack was real, and she wasn't about to let petty gossip get in the way of her happiness. As Jack grew closer to both Natasha and Muna, his life began to change. The once solitary blacksmith now found himself surrounded by two very different companions, one the woman who had captured his heart, and the other the eccentric magician who wanted to unlock a different side of him. Little did Jack know the peaceful life he had always known was about to be disrupted in ways he could never have imagined. Jack had a very big problem, a secret no one knows about, not even his mother. He has a very big manhood that he finds it very difficult to penetrate any woman. This problem had made him to keep his distance from women, but he really wanted something deep and intimate with Natasha. For a man of his age and stature, it's long overdue that he had never had any intimacy, not even for once in his life. One cool evening, as the sun began its slow descent beyond the horizon, Jack sat at the front of his house staring blankly into the distance. The rhythmic sound of the waves crashing against the beach usually brought him comfort, but today he was lost in his thoughts. His hands were clasped together, resting on his knees, and though his body seemed still, his mind was swirling with turmoil. Tears, silent and unbidden, began to roll down his cheeks. Chinita wasn't the kind of man who cried easily, but something deep within him, something he had buried for years, had finally surfaced. It was as if the weight of the world had settled on his shoulders, and for the first time in his life he felt powerless. Unknown to Jack, Muna had been watching him from the shadows, perched on a tree stump not far from house. Muna, with his usual air of mystery, had a knack for slipping into places unnoticed, and tonight was no different. He had come by curious to see how his new friend was doing, but the sight of Jack, the unshakable blacksmith, in such a vulnerable state left Muna both surprised and concerned. Quietly, Muna stepped forward, his movements as graceful as ever. He approached Jack, who was so deep in thought that he didn't notice Muna's presence until he was standing right in front of him. Jack, Muna's soft voice broke through the silence, startling him. Jack quickly wiped at his face, embarrassed that someone had caught him in this state. He tried to compose himself, forcing a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Muna, what are you doing here? I should ask you the same thing, my friend, Muna said, his voice gentle but probing. I came to check on you, but it seems something is weighing heavy on your heart. What troubles you, Jack? Jack turned his gaze away, not wanting to meet Muna's curious eyes. It's nothing, he muttered, shaking his head. Just tired, I suppose. But Muna was not one to be easily fooled. He had always sensed there was something more to Jack than the community, saw something hidden beneath the surface. And now, seeing Jack's tears, Muna was more convinced than ever that there was a secret, something deep and painful that Jack was keeping to himself. Don't lie to me, Jack, Muna said, taking a seat beside him. You may be able to fool the others, but not me. There's something you're hiding. I can feel it. Muna placed a hand on Jack's shoulder, his touch reassuring. Jack, it's okay. If you don't want to open up to me now, you can take your time. When you're ready, I want you to know that I'm always going to be here to listen to you. I promise. Muna, in an attempt to cheer him up, cast a spell that made the ocean sound louder in a mystic rhythm. Jack was astonished, but the community never said you could perform actual magic. They said you had some few party tricks. How is this possible? His expression shifted from sadness to curiosity and surprise. I'm glad I'm able to take you off that mood. That's what's important. I'm just like you. There is some truth that's best hidden from the prying eyes of the world. They can't handle the truth. Without hesitation, Mayo Koro kicked the door, sending it crashing to the ground. The night had taken a terrifying turn, and Jack and Natasha were left standing in the middle of it, their hearts heavy with regret and fear as they faced the wrath of a father and the judgment of the community. As panic ensues, Muna materializes out of the fog, swiftly grasping Natasha's hands and hoisting her onto his back. "Let's go," he urges, his voice steadying the frightened hearts around him. Jack, overwhelmed with gratitude, follows. As they escape into the woods behind his house, navigating through the dense path, they reach his home, a treehouse. Muna carefully lays Natasha on his bed and offers her a wrapper for comfort, instructing her to use the restroom when she's ready. The air is thick with unspoken tension. As they exchange looks, each grappling with their own fears, Natasha steps away to gather herself, leaving Muna and Jack surrounded by unasked questions. Concerned for Natasha, Muna probes, "What happened? Why is she bleeding? Why are the people after you?" Jack avoids his gaze, but is prompted by Muna's insistence. "I heard the spirits." Muna interjects, an urgency in his tone. "They warn me of your trouble now. Can you share your truth?" Taking a deep breath, Jack opens up, confessing the burden he has carried since leaving his homeland of New. "I have a past with women that nearly shattered my life," he admits, "and I sought solace in this community where I believed no one knew me. I have a big manhood, and this had prevented me from being intimate with any woman." Muna unflinching leans closer. "I've seen many things. You are not alone in your struggles." The weight of secrets begins to dissolve in the warmth of understanding. Intrigued, Jack asks if Muna has secrets of his own. "Yes," Muna nods, "and when the time is right, I will share them with you." However, the conversation shifts back to Natasha. Jack narrates the events that led to her injury and why the peoples came at him. Natasha re-enters, breaking the tension, and Muna smiles at her. "You need a healer, Natasha. How are you?" She reassures them. "I'll be fine with some healing herbs." "Lucky for you," Muna replies, "I have just the thing." With care, he prepares a warming bowl of bush meat pepper soup to nourish her spirit. Grateful for Muna's kindness, Jack expresses his heartfelt thanks. "No one has ever cared for me like you." Muna chuckles. "What are friends for days turn into nights?" And within the sanctuary of the house, the trio shares laughter, stories, and the bond of friendship. As Natasha begins to feel at home, she decides it's time to return her home. "I must go home, Jack," she declared one morning. "My father is likely worried sick." Understanding her need for closure, Jack agrees. "Let me first ensure the peoples know you're safe, then I will come for you." Muna accompanies Natasha back to the state. Back at the treehouse, Jack, curiosity piqued, he begins exploring Muna's artifacts. As he sifts through ancient texts and oddities, Muna watches silently, having anticipated this moment. "Sorry, Muna, I didn't realize you were here." Jack apologizes, caught in the web of this discovery. Muna smiles. "No harm done. I meant to share my magic with you. I will show you futures, unseen technologies, unimagined." One evening, while they sit atop the treehouse gazing at the stars, the atmosphere shifts. Muna shares mystical tales of distant lands, drawing Jack into a world filled with wonder. Their laughter mingles with the sea breeze until Muna leans in, attempting to kiss Jack. Startled, Jack recoils, confusion washing over him. "Why would you do that?" Muna's response is calm. "Because I want to, and deep down you feel the same." Jack, with a mixture of intrigue and uncertainty, questions, "What do you mean? Could two men ever be together?" Muna's enigmatic smile holds secrets untold. "Yes, but there's more to me than meets the eye," he reveals, standing tall. "I'm not a typical man." As Muna stands before Jack, the revelation hangs in the air, a new understanding forming between them. The bonds of friendship deepen, but are they ready to navigate the complexities of identity and connection? What do you think of Muna? Is he a gay, transgender, or what is Muna keeping from Jack? And do you care for Chapter 2? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching.